Welcome to The Kingdom, a podcast dedicated to CCBC Essex Athletics in a land defended by Sir Ross's Knights. Now here's your host, Rocco Geppi.
Hello Knights Nation, Rocco Geppi here for the Kingdom Podcast, and week 1 is in the books for men's and women's soccer. We're going to wrap up their first couple of games. We're also going to talk a little bit men's and women's cross country. So just sit back and enjoy the ride. We thank you for coming out. This is season number 4, episode number 4, and we're going to get kicked off with women's soccer. Women's soccer opened their season as a part of a doubleheader with the men on August 26th, and one of the things that head coach Steve King talked about in his preview, which, by the way, you can still catch those previews over at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/CCBC Essex Knights. Go to the Kingdom Podcast Season 4 playlist. And in that interview, Steve King talked about how the women's team, in his opinion, is probably the most talented team in the region. The downside is that the numbers are low this year. A lot of returners. We didn't find out that weren't returning this year until the later part of June, and so the team sits at 13 right now, rather 12, excuse me, and things were looking a little half crooked coming into that first game against Potomac State as they showed up with a roster of 21, but King's Knights quickly showed that his assumption, at least in the first part of the season so far, is correct, and the talent really showed through for the Knights as they go on to a 6-0 victory. This one held up by approximately hour and 20-minute weather delay. Lightning and light rain in the area really thwarted the first half for a long time. We went into the break 1-0 Essex, and that goal was picked up by Kara Dietrich, her first goal of the season. It would not be her last because the Knights, they exploded in the second half for 5 goals. Dietrich scored that first goal in the 17th minute of play. Just 28 seconds out of the break, Kylie Staubitz out of Sparrows Point High School, she got her first collegiate goal on a rare double assist from Dietrich and Zeta Holloway. Some quick passing there from the 2 Perry Hall grads. Things were quiet actually until the 71st minute, and that's when Sam Dorr out of North County notched her 6th career goal to put the Knights up 3-0. Dietrich added unassisted goals in the 80th and 83rd minutes of play, and then Holloway capped the scoring with her 6th career goal in the 88th minute. Again, the Knights go on to win it by a score of 6-0. Dietrich picking up right where she left off last season. 3 goals, 2 assists in this one. Sydney Baker, the freshman goalkeeper, stopped both shots on goal from the Catamounts. At the end of the game, talking with head coach Steve King, he said he was very happy with the win. Said they had some good preseason, had a good preseason, and it was great to see that effort carry over. He also said, quote, "I thought it was a great performance from Kara. Had a couple of missed chances early on. It would have been easy for her to get frustrated, but she kept her composure and kept creating chances. We knew it was just a matter of time before she got one." Finally, Coach King saying the first game of the year, home and region opener, was an important start. And now that we've got that game out of the way, we're going to build on it, continue with the good performance on Saturday. And they did just that. Coming into Saturday, their game against the Harcum Bears. The Bears came to town. This was going to be their first game of the season, and this one started off a little how last year's game started off. The Knights were at Harcum and ended up picking up that victory 3-2, and this one early on, a little bit back and forth. The Knights got out in the 2nd minute of play. Dietrich scored a goal from Staubitz, and then less than 2 minutes later, the Bears got on the scoreboard. Dixon notching her first goal of the year, and it took almost another 30 minutes, but Dietrich put the Knights ahead 2-1 in the 29th minute, and then Natasha Dudley got the Bears even in the 37th minute. That would be all the scoring in the first half, tied 2-2, and then the Knights really showed that they were here to play. These numbers were a little bit closer. The Knights with 12 and the Bears came in with 11 young ladies on their roster. Very good portions of the time in order to get their starters rotated and some rest. The Bears went down by a young woman, so playing with just 10 on the field. The Knights did the best they could to take advantage of that as they scored 5 second-half goals en route to a 7-2 win. Dietrich in the 47th minute of play, again from Staubitz. And then in the 53rd minute of play, she scored her 7th goal of the season, this time on an assist from Danny Lassan. Zeta Holloway, she scored her 2nd goal of the year in the 67th minute. And then Dietrich in the 69th and 77th minutes of play to square her at 9 goals on the season. Kara Dietrich, again, like I said, picking up where she left off last season. She now, in her career, after 2 games this year, 87 career goals in just 38 games played. The Knights have a little bit of a time off as they do not play again until Saturday when they'll welcome in Mercer County Community College. That game is scheduled for 12 p.m. here at the Kingdom. For more information, visit ccbcessexknights.com. We have some more information on the women's team and information on live stats and such for that game. But the Knights on the women's side, just a fantastic start. 2-0 on the season. The Week 1 top 20 poll came out on Monday, and the Knights came in at number 20 after not being ranked in the preseason poll. So in the rankings, would love to see them a little bit higher. In my opinion, they deserve to be a little bit higher, probably top 15. But just continue on with the season, and I'm sure that will take care of itself. Again, Saturday the 4th, Mercer County Community College coming to town to take on your women's soccer Knights. Later on Thursday the 26th, the men took on the Catamounts of Potomac State, and that game was, from the starting whistle, the Knights took control of that game. Early on, the Knights scoring, and in the first half scoring at will. It seemed like it took them a little bit of time, as we've come to expect from this team. In the 19th minute of play, Henry Ortiz from Sam Cisse on a beautiful pass from Cisse. Henry finishes the header and puts the Knights up 1-0. Then in the 20th minute of play, Andy Portillo, the sophomore out of Laurel, he gets into the action, putting a left-footed shot past the Catamounts keeper from about 15-20 yards out. Knights go up 2-0. Kota Tsuchizawa from Japan in the 35th minute, the captain puts a goal into the net to give the Knights a 3-0 lead on an assist from Michael Adekambe. Portillo, he picks up his 2nd goal in the 40th minute of play, a shot. This one was just from 30 yards out, just a laser. You got to go back and take a look at that one. May arguably be the best goal that Portillo has scored in his career here at Essex. Murakawa and Atakambe, they added goals in the 46th and 47th minutes of play, respectively, to cap the scoring late in the game. On the scoreboard, Portillo with 2 goals. Also, Adekambe with 2 goals. And our other goal scorers, of course, Henry Ortiz, Taki Murakawa, and Kota Tsuchizawa, as the Knights go all the way through with a 7-0 victory. In fact, the Catamounts didn't have a shot on goal until late in the second half, which I have to believe, with 4 goalkeepers on this team, is the reason that head coach Joe Fiedler left the starter Brendan Lamaster in, the goalie that was in the net, took him all the way to a national championship game last year, and he didn't see action until very late in the game. So those other goalies, unfortunately, not able to get any reps in that opening game. The Knights back on the pitch, actually, as we're recording this episode. They're going to be playing Chesapeake in a little while here on the very last day of August. So by the time this airs, they will have already played that game. So check back ccbcessexknights.com, and you can catch the box score and the updates from that game. The Knights, as we mentioned, they come into the season. In that preview, we talked to head coach Joe Fiedler, back to being at the helm of just the men's team. He was the coach of both men's and women's the last 3 seasons. Did a tremendous job. He jokingly said if not for having a full-time job, he probably would have kept doing both. But he comes in with his squad. This is 10th season. Previous 9-time defending Region 20 champions. Last year, taking his squad to the Division II National Championship game. It was the first time the Knights men have been to a national championship in 32 years. High expectations for the Knights. They were number 2 in the preseason poll, and they remain number 2 in the nation after the Week 1 poll comes out. This squad is very heavy. About 29, 30 guys on this squad, and 10 of those are returners from last year, or starters, and a total of 14 returners overall. A lot of tall people on this team. I got to tell you, looking at the roster, there are 15 guys that are at least 5'10" or more, and so it allows Joe and his coaching staff to do a lot with this lineup. Names like Andy Portillo, Ortiz, Tuchizawa, they're all back this year, guys that can play all over, and it's exciting to see what's in store for this team this year. Again, just that one game so far, but you gotta like what you see from the Knights so far this season. And again, they will take on the Skipjacks. We'll have more information on that one for you at ccbcessexknights.com. We're going to take a quick break. I appreciate you hanging out and checking in for this episode. Again, Season 4, Episode number 4. And when we get back, we're going to talk men's and women's cross country here on the Kingdom Podcast, a podcast dedicated to CCBC Essex Athletics.
Let's talk about college. Times have changed, and I say no to an education at the cost of crippling debt, because paying off student loans for the next 30 years is not in my financial plans.
Rethink what's possible with CCBC. Visit us online and see what you can be.
We are back, the Kingdom Podcast, and thank you for joining us here today. Just finished up talking about our men's and women's soccer teams. The women out 2-0 now, ranked number 20 in the nation. The men 1-0 with a game to play on August 31st against Chesapeake. The men are ranked number 2 in the nation. And we shift our attention here to cross country as Noah Hutton is on board here again. The Knights unfortunately did not participate in cross country last year due to the COVID pandemic, but back on the sideline, I guess we should say, Noah Hutton taking control over both of these teams. He is back and been here since December of 2016, doing great things. In 2018, he led the Knights men's squad to its first Region 20 championship in history. He also made a run with the women the following season. Really good expectations. The downside of having that off season, and again, to point back to the previews that we did, and when I spoke to Noah, that preview is over in the Kingdom Podcast Season 4 playlist at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/CCBC Essex Knights. Noah talked about how difficult it was to recruit with not having a team to put on the field last year. A little bit difficult to retain some student athletes, and doing his best. As it stands right now, looks like they're going to go into their first meet, which is September the 23rd. Both the men and the women will head to Hood College, where they will take place in the Blazer Twilight Invitational. That one this Friday, September 3rd, of course. And excited to see what will happen in that race. On the men's side, 5 men will be racing for the Knights this year. Patrick Bennett, he's back, the lone sophomore on the team for the Knights out of Parkville, Maryland. Braden Berkey, Isaiah Haley, both from Glenarm and Rosedale, Maryland, respectively. Izzy Romero out of Baltimore, Maryland, a graduate of Archbishop Curley. And Sam Smith from Kingsville, Maryland. He is an Eastern Tech graduate. Braden Berkey may be one of, if not the most, the student athlete that we most will be paying attention to, and that's not any knock on any of our other runners, but in talking to Noah in that opening conversation for the preview, He and the coaching staff very much looking forward to see what Braden not only can do himself, but what he can push his teammates to do as they continue to work hard in practice. Another name that stands out from this list, Sam Smith. If you follow anything that we post on our Twitter account at CCBC Essex Sports, you can follow the cross country team at CCBC Essex _XC. And I got to tell you, every time I see a post, it's something with Sam Smith, something with Braden Berkey. These guys, I have a feeling, are going to push each other this year. Berkey out of Loch Raven, Smith out of Eastern Tech, and I wouldn't be surprised that at some point in this season, as they continue to condition and practice with one another, that these two guys, come Region 20 / Maryland JUCO tournament time, race time, that wouldn't be surprised to see them finish right after one another in that race. So that is coming up this Friday, their first one at Hood College. The women will be racing in that same race. The women will begin their race at 5 o'clock. The men go off at 5:30. Right now for the women, probably a little bit of a smaller squad. Again, the complications from that lost season last year. But Noah has a couple of good ones in Natalia Johnson and Madison Magaha out of Sparrows Point and Patapsco, respectively. So excited to see them run. You'll see the ladies, like I said, in that same race at Hood College, and we'll see what they have. Unfortunately, because there are just two of them, you need 5 to score in NJCAA cross country. So a team championship is not within the realm of possibilities this year. But to see how they grow and mature as individuals as this season rolls on is going to be interesting to watch, and I'm sure Noah is going to be very much interested to see what happens with both those young ladies as they both practice hard and look to get better as the season progresses. So just to kind of summarize, if you will, the first week of the season, the Knights soccer teams combined go 3-0. The women defeating Potomac State 6-0 and Harcum 7-2. The men defeating Potomac State 7-0. You have the first meet of the season coming up for Knights Cross Country on Friday, September 3rd. So we'll have more information on that. Make sure that you keep tabs on all of our teams. These three teams, the men's soccer team, you can find them on Twitter at CCBC Essex Soccer. The women, you can find them on Twitter and Instagram under the same handle at Knights_W Soccer. And the men's cross country team is at CCBC_XC on Twitter. That's all the social media handles. Of course, we're at CCBC Essex Sports, and make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, because one of the benefits of subscribing is anytime we post new content, you get a notification. You'll be one of the first to see and or hear that information, everything from these podcast episodes to highlights to the live streams, all of that if you subscribe to the channel. Join the more than 800 people that have subscribed already. The channel is becoming very popular in this region and beyond. And just, continue to hang out and check back with us for more news. Probably, this might be the shortest episode we have as things get going. A very good positive week. Another thing we have happening here in the Kingdom, our spring teams are on campus, men's lacrosse and baseball. And let me tell you, I have not seen such high expectations in the spring sports in fall in a long time. The number of student athletes that have come out for both teams is just astonishing. It is very exciting, and so we'll have some more information from those teams as we go on. Of course, the baseball team, they have scheduled scrimmages throughout the fall. The men will have, I believe, 1 or 2 scrimmages, nothing official to report just yet, but we are very excited to see how both of those teams shape up. And not too far from hitting the court for the first time in a little over a year. Again, like cross country, lost the season last year due to COVID. and that is the women's basketball team. And boy, let me tell you, they are itching to get back on that court and play some meaningful games after losing the season last year. And let's not forget, I mean, right at the beginning of this pandemic, that team was ready to head out to a national tournament, and that tournament ultimately canceled because of COVID-19. So head coach Mike Sini, his coaches, and some of the players that were on that team, those student athletes, a couple of them are back, very anxious to get back on the court and play some meaningful games. And I got to tell you, looking at this squad of individuals, I feel sorry for those teams that they're going to be playing this year. There's going to be a lot of redemption in those young ladies, and the talent that they have is just unbelievable. So look for their schedule release coming up in the next month or so. And of course, we'll have head coach Mike Sini on a preview. I believe we're scheduled to do that with him in early October, the week of October 4th. So very shortly thereafter, we'll have him on for you to listen to and see exactly what I'm talking about. Being a little coy right now, we don't want to give away too much information, but Mike Sini will have that information for you in a little over a month. So we appreciate you hanging out and continuing to listen to the end of this episode. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. We thank you for joining us. Make sure to follow us on social media at CCBC Essex Sports. That's on Twitter and Instagram. And again, just make sure you subscribe to this channel. Go over and check out the rest of the podcast episodes on the playlist. And you can also check out ccbcessexnights.com. As we stated in previous episodes, we will be relaunching that website with a fresh new look here in a couple of weeks, so make sure you keep an eye out and let us know what you think. Once again, I'm Rocco Geppi. I thank you for joining us, and we hope that you'll join us again next time. So long.